Hey now, Brawlers, it's time for another Board Game Brawl review with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com. Hey people, today we're going to take a look at the Wulfsburg expansion for Zombicide Black Plague, specifically from Cool Mini or Not. Now this is the first, I'll call it a big expansion for Zombicide. Of course, there's going to be bigger expansions because they'll probably do another standalone set. Wulfsburg is not standalone. You do need the Black Plague core set, and it's questionable. I'm pretty sure you can mix this in with the original Zombicide core sets if you really wanted to, without a lot of muss or fuss. But as I'll show you in a moment, one of those things is almost exactly the same as one of the previous Zombicide expansions, so not a big deal. But what Wulfsburg is supposed to be is that while there's the typical zombies running around, the walkers and the runners and the fatties and the normal abominations and all that, there are wolf zombies too, and not just wolf zombies, but possibly giant werewolf zombies as well. Coming into the fray, you also have 4 brand new heroes that you can, or survivor heroes that you can use, and lots of new gear. There's 2 new tower tiles to add just a little bit of a change into the mix, and along with the heroes, you actually have enough supplies to play with more heroes, which means that together with the base game, you could theoretically do a 10-player game. I would not recommend that. Let me go ahead and give you a brief look at how what comes in this new expansion, Wulfsburg. Then we're going to come back and we'll give you my things and my stuff and my stuff. What do I usually say? Final thoughts. No, what I think. One of those things. Wulfsburg is the first expansion for Zombicide Black Plague. It is not standalone. You need the Black Plague core set to play, though it is possible, if a bit awkward, to use some elements of it with the original Zombicide core sets. There are 4 new characters in this set, consisting of a card and a miniature. Ariane, I believe that's how you pronounce that, excels at moving about, especially with her jump ability, where she can jump ahead 2 spaces. Carl, that's a much easier name, is primarily a spellcaster, but at higher levels can diverge into physical and ranged attacks. Morgan is great at all attacks, but can eventually choose melee or spellcasting to focus on. And Theo is mostly physical attacks, but also starts with the sprint ability, which lets him run forward 3 spaces. Along with that, there are 4 more dashboards, 4 more pieces of starting equipment, and 4 more sets of different colored pegs and bases, which means you can now play with up to 10 characters, theoretically. There are 2 new zombie types and 8 cards for the zombie deck that will bring them out. Zombie wolves function exactly like the zombie dogs from the original Zombicide family. You only need a 1 damage weapon to kill them, and they only give you 1 XP for killing them. However, they have 3 activations each during the zombie phase. That's bad. That means they can kill a fully charged survivor if they start their activations in the same space. What's worse than that? An abomination that has 3 activations. Wolf abominations require a 3 damage weapon to kill, or Dragon Bile plus fire, and they give you 5 XP. But they're just as fast and deadly as the zombie wolves. There are 2 new tiles that let you play with towers. Towers count as both building and street zones. When you're on the top of one, you can't cross the ramparts, but you can fire down at enemies on the ground, and in fact can shoot over other buildings if you have the range. Finally, there are 18 new pieces of equipment, some of which come with an extra copy. Some of these are magic items, and they use a rule that wasn't utilized in the core game. The gems at the top tell you which levels you must be in to use the item. Some weapons or armor can only be used if you're in yellow, orange, or red. I won't cover all of the cards, but here's the fun ones. The Chaos Longbow turns the targeted zone into a dragon fire if you get at least 4 or more hits with it. You can discard the Dragonfire blade to create a Dragonfire. The Flaming Greatsword can light a Dragon Bile on fire for 1 action. Ironclad Zombie Wolves is an enchantment spell you can use once per turn to let 1 survivor take 0 wounds from zombie wolves until the end of the round. The Empiric Crossbow heals 1 of your wounds every time you kill a zombie with it. And that's pretty much everything that comes in Wulfsburg. Now, just to be very clear, we'll backtrack a second and talk about Zombicide Black Plague briefly, because Black Plague was what really brought me back into Zombicide. I actually got rid of all my Zombicide stuff because I just felt it was too simple. There was too much of it, which sounds weird, but I just felt buried underneath a bunch of stuff that all felt like the same thing. And then Black Plague came along, and I liked the theme better. There's a couple of little tweaks, like magic and how that works, and I just appreciated it just a bit more, enough to put me back into the game. And I was very excited to get the Wulfsburg expansion, along with a bunch of other Kickstarter stuff, which we'll maybe talk about some other time. But with the Wulfsburg expansion, I was excited because, hey, a new type of thing. It's not just faster zombies or more resilient zombies or toxic zombies. Now it's wolves, and it's a werewolf abomination, the Wolf-Abomination or Wolf-Abomination or whatever it's called. I was like, oh, that's really awesome. And so that's part of what's good about this and what's bad about this. So what's good about this is that, yes, it's more content, and it is nice to have to mix things up and have the wolf zombies and to have the Wolf Abomination, and then there's 4 new heroes, which is always good. Although with the Kickstarter heroes, there's so many heroes now. But if you don't have the Kickstarter stuff, then it's really good to have 4 new survivors. I keep calling them heroes, survivors, whatever. And so that's good stuff there, and also more gear. All the gear in the game is objectively good. I think it's good stuff to have in there. And now you have the limitations on when you can use some of it, which is necessary because they're awesome. So it's a good balancing act, just like to have to level up before you can use it, and that feels more like a traditional video game RPG as well too. So I appreciate that. So survivors and gear, I don't have a problem with. And it's nice to have the wolf zombies and the wolf abomination. But I think my problem here, and this is a bit meta, is just that, again, much like what was happening with the original Zombicide, they're making tiny incremental changes, and it doesn't really change the game all that much. And in fact, as I mentioned in the overview, the zombie wolves are exactly the same as the zombie dogs. Okay, fine, for people who no longer want to play with their zombie dog expansion with Black Plague, now you have actual wolves that are a little more thematic, but still, I wish they were a little bit different, that they did something different. They're nice to add to the mix because they are so dangerous and deadly, but I was hoping for something a little more drastic, and especially with the Wolf Abomination, which is just a zombie wolf that takes 3 to kill. It takes a 3 damage weapon to kill. So that's a little bit of a bummer to me, but also I think even more so is the towers. Now the towers are an interesting concept, and you know, in the games of this that I played, I was thinking to I played a solo game and I played with people, different scenarios, and I was thinking to myself, all right, let's think of a way to use these towers and use them in a very productive way because they're there to be used. And there isn't really. There's no real strong, unless you're in a scenario that specifically has stuff that you need to go to do up there, like get objectives or whatever the case might be. There's not a strong case for you to go up there and start like sniping zombies because you don't want to be stuck up there. You can't go over the ramparts. So it's much, much better just to stay on the ground level unless you have to go up there because you're overrun and that's your last stand, right? As a group. Or if you're separated somehow, don't do that. So I just wish they did something more, and I wish there was more tiles in the expansion. I know it's not a huge standalone expansion, but 1 or 2 more that does something different would not have been a bad idea. So I don't want to come down too hard on this because I like Black Plague. It's great to have some more content no matter what it is, and it's nice to have something that mixes up the zombies a bit more, and some more survivors, especially if you've only got the survivors from the core retail release of the game. Then it's definitely great to have those. But I wish the tiles were more meaningful, and I wish there was more impact that the zombie wolves and the zombie wolf abomination had on the game. But for the survivors and for the gear, definitely not a bad expansion. And hopefully they make some more meaningful and very radically different design choices moving forward, because I think that would be a great way for Zombicide Black Plague to go to fully divorce itself from the other sets of Zombicide, which are fine. You can still keep playing those, but I want this to be a very different experience. But I'm curious what other people think about that. Maybe I'm just whining too much. That is Zombicide Wulfsburg expansion. I recommend it for the most part.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.